What's up? Welcome to a new episode of Movie Schmovie. My name is Steve. I'm one of the co-hosts of the show, and as always, I'm joined by
Ron
and John.
Welcome to the episode. We're going to be talking about our most anticipated TV and film of 2025. We talked about this last week at the end of our top films of the year list, and just kind of looking forward to the year ahead. We're definitely ahead of the ball this year in terms of how we feel about the year prior and looking ahead to the year we're in. So it seems like a good time to, just kind of go round robin. We each picked three things that we're most excited for this year. So I think we're going to just kind of step through go back and forth and just kind of talk about these selections and what makes us excited for them and, see what we come up with. You guys, any other things you want to talk about before we get into our picks for anticipation of the year?
Not that I can think of.
Yeah.
No.
Any entertainment news or anything? I guess we should say our hearts go out to all the people in LA and in and around Hollywood right now.
Sure,
all the crazy fires. You know, both people I know personally and through creative projects, and then that Friends of Friends network gets out there. I've been seeing a lot of people reporting that they're safe, and that's great, but I know a lot of people are having their homes destroyed, and it's just crazy to see that the place where it all happens be in such danger, and the infrastructure around it, that's a different conversation, but just the personal toil is something that is really, really sad to see.
Yeah, my sister-in-law just let us know that she evacuated from her home. So I'm like, a little worried, because it's spreading like crazy. So yeah,
the videos of
awful.
Not just the destruction, but just like the environment, kind of like John was saying, like everything around it. The winds and just the embers. It's just like all that stuff is just insane footage, and it's horrible. Thoughts are for sure out there. The only news tidbit I wanted to mention was relating to a press release I saw like literally on the way home from work today. The digital release. Sorry, I'm trying to get my view up here. The digital release that came out on New Year's Eve for Wicked. Part one, kind of a controversial move because initially I felt that they had kind of committed to like a longer theatrical window for the film, which is, Universal kind of has a reputation. They have that 17-day window, and they kind of have a 30-day window for certain things that make over a certain amount of money. But I thought that, there was at one point they were saying they were going to maybe even keep it to like a 60 to 90 day. But anyway, the week prior to New Year's, like it kind of came out that they were going to go New Year's Eve for a digital PVOD release. And they announced today that I think it was in the first 24 hours or the first day, like on New Year's Eve, it did like $26 million in PVOD sales. And in the first 7 days, it did $70 million, which is just astronomical. Like it blows anything that has been tracked for PVOD numbers, especially for Universal, because they were kind of at the front of that during the pandemic and getting their titles on digital. In some cases in the pandemic, day and date, but even since then, like we talk about it all the time. Their movies, sometimes you can catch them a couple weeks later.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I don't know. Like when they announced that, I thought it was genius because I mean they're benefiting from so much marketing and publicity, and the wave for Wicked. Currently, they're still in it. The movie's still in over 3,000 theaters, or is on over 3,000 screens still. And to have a theatrical running that strong and it's still doing well in theaters, to make those numbers in a week it's just bonkers. I think I read that the Trolls movie that came out during the pandemic, I think it was like one of their top grossing ones, and that was like 100 million, and it's probably beaten that by this point already. And the Mario Brothers movie, I think, was like the biggest 7-day performance, which was 44 million, and it almost doubled that. But yeah, I don't know, just a number, a move, a decision that was, I think, pretty creatively and just kind of impressively timed to the new year, people being home, people being between holidays, off work, still knowing that Wicked is everywhere. It's at the Golden Globes. It's, it's just so present in culture right now. So, I mean, for it to do that well and still be making a lot of money at theaters is just, it's kind of wild. It's kind of a rarity right now.
Well, it is like a people are going to see it again and again kind of experience, which makes me think of movies like Titanic or, I mean, I guess that might be the best example of like a movie, or maybe even Avatar. James Cameron seems to do it, where people like to go back and see it again and again.
30 of my dollars in that 70 million. So I bought the shit out.
Same. And I mean, it's like, like I said last episode, like my wife, took Sydney back to see the sing-along version that's in theaters right now.
Yeah.
And it's just a really impressive rollout campaign, everything for Wicked.
That's pretty cool
to be doing that good of a business. So it's exciting.
Oh, and just a note for people that buy digitally, you get both versions. You get the sing-along version and you get the theatrical version. And then you get a ton of extras. So it's like it's one of the $30 purchases that feels like a real deal. Like
it feels like they took the feature set from like a special box disc and put it on the digital platform, like holy behind the scenes stuff. Yeah, it's really cool.
Now, sing-along version, does that just mean it's like karaoke on the screen? Okay.
Yeah, it's got like a little intro from them where they do like a vocal warm up with you, and on the screen it's got the text and it's got like a little glitter bouncing along to each, the lyrics as it goes. It's I mean, my kids have watched it daily since we got it, and it's just like it's on every single day. So
it's really cool.
They're on top of it with this one. It seems like I thought it seemed a little premature. Frankly, I thought this felt like a movie that could have milked in theaters more. But what you're saying, Steve, is an interesting thought of like getting at this point when it's already been as successful as it has been, getting as many people to see it as possible is sort of part of the victory lap, maybe, I guess. But it does seem like this was one that they could have held out a few more weeks. But maybe there's something about that, people sitting at home having some holiday time, being able to watch it, and that those eyes are actually. It's just hard for me to somehow see how the eyes are actually dollars, the same way that movie tickets are. Do you know what I mean? It's easy for me to get my head around how they make money off of screenings than it is off of like. The money's already paid through whatever streaming service, or I guess it might be on demand. No,
these are all premium.
Okay, so it's like $30 or something to watch.
Yeah, rentals or purchases. So like Ronald said, 30, or you can rent it for 30, like 9.
All their money.
That makes a lot more sense. But still, it's an interesting thing to decide it's time to go ahead and just. It's like it's worth it, even with a movie that big. After a few weeks, you can see it like it's tapering off. Let's go ahead and get those home dollars.
Yeah. And I mean, and the reality is there's an inverse relationship between like their take, the studio's take on what it makes at the box office for what it makes on PVOD, like the percentage. Like that's why Universal went that route during the pandemic and since, is that they pivot and they leverage the marketing and PR and all the stuff that they've spent to roll this movie out, so that they can use that for the digital release as well. So like if it's made $100 million by now at the time we record this, their take of that might be $75 million versus theatrical $100 million. They may only get like 35 to 40 million of that. The exhibitors take a lot of that. And it's just it's all math. And I mean, there's definitely probably a bit of a limb they go out on to make that decision with a movie like that. But I mean, to still have the footprint of 3,000 plus screens is like, it's still doing business. It surely got hurt. But these are people that may not have ever gone to the theater to see it, and it's fresh in their minds. And it's like, oh, I can watch it at home now. I'm going to do that now. Where if it was like a month or 2 months from now, it may not be in the front of their mind anymore. It's just like there's a bit of a balancing act. But I don't know. It definitely seems to have been a big win, and it's a first. And Universal again is just making as much money as they can. So.
Yeah, I think this is going to break some physical records too, man. Like I've many people I've like seen on Facebook talked about buying physical copies of it, man. I almost never see I'm gonna buy This is from people that I know don't buy physical shit. Right. This is like they have a copy for their kids that they could just pop in if they don't have an internet connection or something, or they're like out on the road or something.
Well, I mean, it's that big of a movie, right? Like it's that movie that's that big, but also we're at a point where people are talking a little bit about physical media again. I've even seen people talking about, like younger people talking about discovering CDs, their parents' CDs, because of the quality, and going, oh my God, the audio quality. And it struck me like, oh yeah, if you've gotten used to listening to MP3s on little white earbuds, and then maybe even collecting vinyl and listening to it on who knows how good of a system, you know,
right?
And then you hear CD quality, it's like, oh yeah, maybe CD quality actually has some novelty to it. So like the least romantic object, which is like the DVD or Blu-ray or CD disc, it might have some premium with all these factors coming in, where people are like, oh, this is the best quality, and or how else am I going to make sure I always have it?
Yeah.
And especially with kids, I'm well beyond that, where I'm shoving something on for a kid. But like, I mean, those days of knowing you could just like play something round and round. It's not like that's how you want your kids to be raised. But it's just we all know that's a reality. There's a lot of quantity time around the house. So
yeah, for sure.
But you know what's you're reminding me of, Steve? It's funny when you talk about your little kids, both a boy and a girl, being into it. It reminds me of at my house when we were growing up. It was Grease. The musical. There's like my sister and I loved Grease, and we had the soundtrack album, and my mom loved it, and we played. I mean, I feel like it was something we played nonstop. So I don't know. And also we had Singing in the Rain, but Grease was the one where like I wanted to be John Travolta, you know, that kind of shit when I was really little. And I think it's because I knew my mom liked him, but also there was, and it's funny watching that musical now, it's pretty raunchy. But it was sort of a family thing that would be on television, you know. It was a big thing, but it was also one of the earliest movies I remember that we either taped off of television or owned the disc, or not the disc, but the tape, so that we could watch it. So, Summer Nights. Mm-hmm.
It's a good movie, man.
I mean, it's crazy. I really do think watching it now and realizing I watched it as a kid, there's so much in there that just went right over my head. I just knew that John Travolta was cool.
And I can remember like in like that movie specifically, even like the songs, you know, like kind of they're a little borderline in terms of the subject matter, but like I like singing them in school. Mm-hmm. I remember singing in my choir in high school, like singing Summer Lovin'.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is cool. And I was like, now I'm looking at it like, wow, that was pretty,
man,
it's a bold choice.
You know what I've always wanted to do? I wanted to take You're the One That I Want, slow it down, and make it a horror.
I was like, put it over a horror movie.
Oh my God. The lyrics are so scary. You slow it down, put some echo on it.
Are you sure this hasn't been done already?
I don't think so, man.
I've got chills.
Oh my God. I mean, like, just get somebody to cover it. You know,
that would also be good. No, I was going to say, it would also be good a beat, you know, based on
like
that.
A soulful, like Cynthia Erivo voice. Yeah. Oh my God. And just her voice, not the beat. And then when it picks up, add the bass.
We'll do the like I've Got 5 on it, where you merge it into the score, and you sample the original, you get somebody new to sing it, and you merge it into the score.
John, we got a project.
You're the one that I want. That's just the tagline on the poster.
God, man, I've dreamt about doing.
Wait for Grease to become public domain. Make a slasher film called The Greaser. And the tagline is you're the one that he wants.
Oh man.
And it's a guy who you know, some people he kills with his hot rod, and some people he you know, like he actually uses the pomade from his hair to
just like
suffocate them. Yeah.
That'd be scary.
I should mention while we're talking about Grease, though, this is my prime like stupid anecdote about that movie, which is that when I was a kid, I so loved John Travolta, or just thought he was cool, as I said, and wanted a leather jacket really badly. And my mom had me convinced, not really convinced, but sort of did that mom job of making me think that my red nylon windbreaker that had like white zippers on it and had like a zipped in, like a hood zipped into the collar, had me convinced that was kind of like John Travolta's black leather jacket.
His black leather jacket.
And so I would be like, with that red nylon
so
windbreaker. And also, I will say that was at the moment. I was alive. I was present. I was lucid. The moment they innovated those hoods that could zip up into the collar. Like, I remember when they started circulating, and it was like, have you seen these new? It was kind of like, have you seen these new Velcro sneakers?
Right.
But it was like, have you seen these new? They've got a little crappy hood that really sucks that you can like roll up and stick in the collar and then zip it up. Anyway,
innovation,
red windbreaker. That was my CB name that I used whenever I would talk to Troy. It's me, Red Windbreaker.
Red Windbreaker. At chills and multiplying. I'll be at stop 6.
All right, so
let's jump in. Yeah,
let's jump into some looking forward to the year. What were you guys thinking? Like when you looked at the year, in the sense of, we were talking about whether we thought our top 5 lists were basic in the last episode. Do you feel like you're looking forward to sort of basic stuff, or do you think you're looking forward to nooks and crannies and stuff that you've, specific to you? Like, or is it a mix? What are you thinking about 2025?
I got one basic bitch pick, and then the other 2, honestly, the third is not, it's a hybrid sort of thing. But I think here's what I've gathered. Our lives have been complicated in the last couple of years. And I think it's okay to just want some pure joy in a movie and a TV show or something else coming out. I've been less hard on that kind of stuff. So, if Steve names a remake, I'm not gonna have the like meme fist of Arthur. I'm not gonna have like Arthur.
The mean fist of Arthur.
Just like, have you seen that thing?
Yes, I know. Did you say the mean fist or the meme?
No, the
but
meme.
I like the idea of calling that meme the mean fist of Arthur.
The mean fist. But yeah. Yes. It's just I've relaxed so much on that stuff. Like, Wicked is one of those examples. Like, who would have thought that this movie? I wouldn't have guessed in January that this would be something that I'd be like going absolute berserk over. So, I'm expecting some joy in some weird places. So, or some like super commercial stuff too. So,
what about you, Steve? Do you feel like 2025 looks good, or did you like I was saying to Ronald before we started recording that there's a lot of stuff that's just not on the calendar yet, and so it was interesting whether it's like even a fully formed pick. And so I tried to pick things that have something close to a release date, but I don't even think I met that standard. What about you for the year? How does 2025 look?
I think it looks pretty good. I mean, there's a lot of stuff coming out. I mean, I think there's been this interesting like buzz phrase in Hollywood, and if you like, we talk about the podcast The Town. Like, I know Ronald listens to it. A lot of the studios like have this mantra of like survive to 25. They say a lot in The Town or across the business, and you hear them talk about that a lot when you listen to some of these other film podcasts that we follow. And it's mainly because of pandemic, because of the strikes, the writer's strike. A lot of stuff got pushed back that didn't come out in 24. So there is a lot of stuff coming out in 2025 that could or should have come out earlier. So, that's partially what you're speaking to, John, is that like there's a lot of stuff that's not dated because stuff has shifted around so much to make space for some of these movies. And can we push this next one to 26, or like, what does that look like? So, I mean, when I look at it, I saw a lot of, things I've been looking forward to for a long time. And, that was my mantra going into this list, looking at it, as a teaser to my list. It's a lot of things that I've been waiting for a long time. And, all 3 of them fall into that category. So that's my theme for my list is kind of culmination and or continuations and things I've been excited for a while.
All right. Well, actually, that's enticing. You want to get us started with one?
The first one I would say only mainly because of recency, or the trailer came out a couple weeks ago, but 28 years later is on my list. I'm a huge fan of Days and Weeks. I like,
just in general, the measures of time.
Yeah, as measurements of time, especially with this podcast, how we like to time travel.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, for
by
sure.
just letting time pass.
I find the concept of a week is useful just to know when it's time to do another show. That's
what we do. Yeah, that helps. But I don't know. Like when they kind of announced this, which was barely a year and change ago, that this was going to be the start of a new trilogy of these films, and I just feel like, Danny Boyle coming back to direct it, Alex Garland coming back to write it, Cillian Murphy's in it, and the rest of the cast that they built around it. I pretty much love everybody in it. Aaron Taylor Johnson, Jodie Comer, Ralph Fiennes, and the trailer was outstanding.
Yeah.
So I just was like, I'm ready to see a trailer. This trailer was outstanding. I love everybody that's involved in this, and the fact that this is, a bridge between the two prior and the two that will come. It's that middle piece of these films in this series. Has me super excited, and just the genre of it all. I can't wait to see more of what they have in store for the latest franchise. So yeah, I don't know. 28 years later, it comes out. As of now, it's flexed a little bit, but it's supposed to be in the middle of June 20th currently. So that's my first pick.
So what do we know about the story? I didn't even know it was a trilogy until you just mentioned that. I just knew that the trailer looked great, and I
think they may have shot the second one already with the who did the Candyman reboot, Nia
DaCosta.
I think she directed that. She's doing the second one.
Well, she's cool. I like her.
No.
I mean, she catches flack because The Marvels was, whatever, a flop or just didn't underperformed. But I don't think that was really her fault.
It was a fun movie, man.
Yeah, right. I think what she tried to bring to it when you hear her talk about it is the stuff that people liked about the movie, which is the fun. But yeah, I think 28 years later looks... I don't know. It just looks awesome, and it's the kind of thing you can only do when it's actually been a while since the original, and you can't have planned it that way. But it's cool that they're here. So,
shot on an iPhone with like a $20,000 attachment to it.
Right. I think that's an important distinction. That's an important distinction.
Come on, man.
That's cool though. I mean, it's still cool.
It's very cool, and it's connected to the ethos of the original and all that stuff.
Yes.
But it is also an interesting flex when the point is you can attach all kinds of great lenses and awesome stuff to an iPhone and get that kind of performance. But still, it's cool. I mean, it reminds me, anytime someone does that, it's a cool flex to me. Just because it's, what was Tangerine shot on an iPhone?
Yeah.
Yep.
And then Soderbergh did one. The
Soderbergh basketball movie.
Well, wasn't the one with what's her name, where she's insane and it's like a gaslighting situation?
I know the one you're talking about. That was shot on an iPhone. I don't know the name of it.
Anyway,
it's just like a bit of a upgrade on it. But I mean, it's just so the second one in the trilogy is going to be called the Bone Temple, and that's the Nita Costa one, and then Danny Boyle is going to be directing the third of this new trilogy, so he'll close it out.
That's a great creepy title, The Bone Temple. That's fantastic.
Yeah, dude.
Especially if we're getting into some, we don't know yet what's happening with these evolved zombies or just whatever's happened with. I mean, that's what I love about a many years later sequel is that one shot you have to drop people back into a world and be like, here's what's gone on. Like,
for sure.
It's such a cool kind of storytelling to me.
Yeah.
Yep. Who wants to jump in next?
Well, do you want to, Ronald? You were opening your mouth like you wanted to talk.
I guess I'll go.
Okay.
I was just waiting.
Okay. It was anticipation.
He's got the whole world in his hands. He's been given the keys to this whole universe. And one of the first movies that he's doing, that he's directing, that he's written, is Superman. And, I watched this trailer and I think about a world. It's so cool. I think about a world where, like, I don't know, man, like snark and shittiness is always a thing that like wins. For him to highlight such an optimistic superhero. And I know that he's going to take, there was always this argument I had when we were heavy into the Marvel ethos, where I was kind of like, Captain America made the best Superman movie in the last couple of years because he was this optimist that was just nonstop loyal, nonstop positive. I see the good in people. I see the good in my friends, even if they're fucking up around me. And
Right.
I think that we're gonna get something like that in this new Superman. And the cast, come on, the cast is insane. The trailer was so cool, and he has a pet this time around. And the
Pat, who
fact
seems like a very good boy.
yes, but the fact that he said that he did it because he was like trying to raise a dog at some point where he was writing a script, and he and it was like this lack of control that he had that kind of brought about why he should include. Man, it's just like this feels busy. It feels busy in a way that we've never seen before. It feels like we're being plopped into a world rather than another origin story. Like it's like Batman. How many fucking pearls do I have to see hit the ground? How many? It's the same shot. Pearls every time. It's like we don't have to see that for this current Batman. We don't have to see that for Superman. We're being plopped into the world already, which is so fucking cool.
Yeah.
We have superheroes in it. It's like it feels so busy, and it feels a little intimidating. But I think that if I trust in James Gunn to give us something that is not only heartfelt but well written and memorable. So it's no surprise that this thing hit all these astronomical records when it premiered. I'm really looking forward to Superman.
Ronald, do you know what I think is the evidence of what you're talking about? Is that like in the first, what is it, like 15 minutes of Guardians, maybe first 20 minutes, he sets up like 3 or 4 of the characters that you've never met before and gets them on an adventure together that quickly. And like, so I think the busyness that you're saying, that could be a liability, but the idea that there's that many characters in it and it's James Gunn, again, we're not sitting here trying to say the guy's never made a misstep. We're just saying that this is kind of something we think he has a handle on, is the kind of like introducing you to a complex situation. Plus, I just think he's going to try to make a movie out of it and not a thing that's meant to start a sequence of movies. I mean, it should also maybe do that, but I don't think that he's viewing this as like, this is part of a planned trilogy. I think he's trying to give us a movie. And I like that. What you're saying is very true. We haven't yet been given that version of Superman where he's just part of a world of superheroes and it's like they're actually heroes. Zack Snyder's take on it was not that. So no, and the crypto stuff, come on. He knows he's got us. But like, isn't it great the way that crypto acts like a real dog? When he first shows up, he actually kind of pounces around on the ground. Like he doesn't seem to, he doesn't seem to know that this is serious. He's just like, what do you need, boss? No, I think you're right. I think it's cool to imagine what James Gunn will do with that hopefulness and that sincerity, because I do think he sees the assignment as slightly different than his usual.
Yeah,
assignment.
For sure, man.
Well, I will pick. Let's see, which of my picks will I go to first? I guess I'll go to the one that is the most similar to the one that you mentioned, in the sense that it is a creator that I like, and a franchise, a character, a being that I'm also very interested in. But it's not a movie, it's a television show. I'm talking about Noah Hawley's Alien Earth, which is coming ambiguously in the new year, in the fresh year, I suppose, since we're here. And I don't know. They've announced it, like the teaser that came out that showed a few seconds from it. It sort of just said 2025, I think. So there might be more information coming, but this feels to me like if it's actually ready, I don't see them waiting until like November or something to put this out. But it could still be a long wait. But I'm just intrigued on what this is. I've heard little bits and pieces about the timeline and where it fits in. And I'm a little bit, I mean, with any Alien project, as someone who likes Prometheus and Covenant, and pretty much all the Alien movies in a way. I'm a little bit worried about any new project and like how's it going to fit into the timeline? What's it going to do to the timeline? Is it going to try to erase movies or whatever? And Noah Hawley, all he's said is that a lot of the stuff from the sequels isn't very useful to him in terms of the story he's trying to tell, which could be very vague, but it could just mean he just doesn't refer to certain things. But the idea that in this one the aliens come to Earth, it does place that event, if that actually happens before the stories we know, that changes the timeline of what we think, which is to say that if people met a xenomorph before the events of the first film. So anyway, I don't know. I'll be interested to see how he plays with that timeline, but Noah Hawley is a creator who has made some of my favorite things, period, as far as just moments, characters, scenes from the Fargo series, and even the Legion series, which, it's a hard watch for some people because of how surreal it is. It's got mind-blowing moments of greatness and cool cinematic effects. I just feel like for Noah Hawley to be doing an Alien series, he has to have an idea, and I think that guy has really interesting ideas. So I'm all about this whenever it arrives.
Yeah, this looks like it could be really, really cool.
Yeah.
It's good timing too. Like, I think I just like these properties, Alien and the Predator series, like with Prey, and they haven't, there's another one of those coming out at some point this year.
Yeah, Badlands,
and I just feel like with what's the alien one that just came out called Romulus. Like it's just like these properties are like hot, and they always kind of were at least lukewarm, but they're definitely hot now. So it's like the timing for this series is very good just for the property in general to kind of like float off of the success that Romulus had, which is, I'm really excited for this one too. I'm gonna go to my number 2, and my number 2 is gonna be Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning.
I knew that had to be one of yours.
This is the one I thought you guys might expect. Interesting change to the title name, like it was Dead Reckoning Part 1, Dead Reckoning, whatever they decided on what it was going to be. I don't know. But now it's The Final Reckoning. But yeah, I don't know. I the little teaser that came out, again, everything looks awesome in these trailers. I'm in the bag for anything really that Tom Cruise does. Always have been, regardless of him likely being a crazy person. I find him incredibly entertaining and one of my favorite movie stars. So, and this series specifically has just been like pound for pound one of the best action franchises ever. And especially we've talked about it a lot on this podcast, just like kind of, especially the last like 3 or 4 movies, just kind of building in terms of scope and quality and just entertainment and action. And, I don't know that Dead Reckoning Part 1, superseded its predecessor. Your opinion can be all over the place in terms of what your favorite in the series are, but the option of having multiple, number ones, it's like you could have a conversation about at least 3 or 4 of them being the best one in this series, and you wouldn't be wrong. So, I mean, I'm in on seeing how they quote unquote end Tom Cruise's foray into the Mission Impossible series. I don't know that I'd ever buy that, he won't be involved in these movies anymore, or maybe not. I mean, I would love for it to be, some big send off in more ways than one if they did it right. But, if Ethan Hunt is still around by the end of this movie, he may pop up in some other way, but I'd be very curious to see what they do with this franchise going forward.
So you really think they might shuffle him off this mortal coil?
I don't know. I mean, it's there's so many emotional stakes in these movies that they've really built up to, and some have been paid off and some have not. And the series has a history and a reputation for like him not wanting to let go of the Mission Impossible franchise, like notoriously with Jeremy Renner. He was supposed to take over the franchise and kind of got pushed aside, and his character kind of got, written down, and that was a whole ordeal. And, and I got to say, like, I don't know what that movie would have looked like, but what came after that is some of the best stuff in the franchise.
Yeah.
So I can't really argue with that decision, you know.
Henry Cavill cocking his arms.
I mean,
after
all
that,
timer,
so,
right? It's crazy.
Oh my goodness.
It's crazy.
The helicopter scene. Oh,
it's just, yeah, there's so, that's my point. Like we could all go around Robin and pick so many amazing things that, you know, this franchise has brought post that. But I mean, you know, I don't know. I think it would be amazing if they did it, if there was some reason that Ethan doesn't make it out. I mean, you know, like I could buy that. I buy that stake in this franchise, you know, with the characters, the emotional stakes with, you know, Simon Pegg and Ving and I don't know, everybody involved. Vanessa Kirby, Shea Wingham, Isai Morales is in it now. Palm is in it. Haley, I mean, there's this franchise is massive now. The star power is through the roof, and I'm very excited to see the marketing for this, the PR for this, the, you know, the little tours that they're going to do as a final thing for. I think that's the key. Is like, you know, the letting go of Dead Reckoning Part 1, Part 2. Something may have changed, and like he may be ready to let this go, you know, because they changed the title to The Final Reckoning. You know, like that was an intentional choice, I think, because there was reports that it was never supposed to be that. And, you know, something maybe changed and they continued to shoot this movie for a while, even after most of it was filmed with Part 1, but it, I think, literally wrapped only a month or two ago. But it comes out in May 23rd. And I will be there day one to see what happens with TC in the last Mission Impossible movie that he might ever be in. So I'm excited for that.
I guess I'm skeptical, but maybe there's no I mean, maybe you're right. We've always joked that he was going to just end up dying making one of these. So maybe there is some point to him saying, I'm done with this and whatever. But I don't know. I guess I'm slightly skeptical about him stepping away. And I know you expressed that, but it's like almost to the point where I feel like it's that thing of the band that says, this is our last tour. And it's like, they don't know. In 5 years, they might feel like doing it again, you know? But you kind of, the idea of them giving it a big finish with, it could serve as the end of his run as that character. That's interesting, you know? But some part of me, unless they kill him, and even then, I don't know that I trust. But the other thing is, what would they do going forward? That's an interesting question too. So,
yeah, we'll see.
Like, who's left? Are they going to do the Simon Pegg franchise?
Yeah. So there's like some secret actor, some secret character that is in this movie that's going to take the franchise over that we don't know about.
Oh,
which would be wild, but I don't. That's just, you know, that's just
Ving Rhames.
That's crazy talk, right?
It's gonna.
I mean, honestly, part of me is like, I would love to see. I would love to see Tom Cruise's, if it is the end of his involvement with Mission Impossible, at least in that primary Ethan Hunt role. Like, if he doesn't die and he's still around, he could pop up in little things here and there if it does get handed off to another actor or actress. Right. But, you know, my feeling also, like outside of this franchise, is I genuinely am a huge Tom Cruise fan. So I would be excited to see anything. I want to see him doing other stuff. He's in that phase of his career. Like, he's a great actor. Like, he could be getting like and I think he's doing like I forget who he's doing his next movie with. Is it Alfonso Cuarón or Iñárritu? One of those, like a really Oscar, like high-end director, like
a serious director.
Yeah, like not anything he's done recently, basically. Like not action.
Well, not like
related,
one of his house guys that he works with. Like, as much as we love Macquarie, he's
it's something that we haven't seen him doing, which is like I'm excited for that, you know. And if he could get into that phase, or, you know, go see him do like a Tarantino movie, get him in that last movie if it's the last one. I don't know.
Oh, that would be cool as hell.
I just want to see Tom Cruise do more stuff. I'm not no problem with the Mission films, but like, he's in Alejandro Iñárritu film, cool. A rumored Live Die Repeat sequel, you know, with Doug Liman. He's got another Doug Liman movie.
That sounds great.
I don't know. I would love to see him do a bunch of other stuff, but before that, let's get some Final Reckoning going. So cool. May it will be so,
as opposed to one of those reckonings that's just like a preliminary reckoning.
Yeah, just going to feel it out, see how it goes.
This is like a trial reckoning.
Yeah, 7-day trial. Yeah. In-app purchases to follow. All right, Ronald. You're next.
Gareth Evans, The Raid 1, The Raid 2, that boy don't miss. He also produced Gangs of London, that boy don't miss. So when I hear that in 2022 he was working on a movie with Tom Hardy, I got super excited. But this thing has been in production hell for damn near 3 years. Mm-hmm. But the Tudum has actually announced that it actually is coming out in 2025. Netflix picked it up.
Yeah.
I don't know how this happened. Havoc is what I'm looking forward to. For anybody who has not seen Gangs of London or Raids 1 and 2, or even his short that was in VHS. Was it VHS 2?
VHS.
He had this VHS.
I think it was the second one.
The second one, yeah.
The second one.
His short is insane in there.
Yeah, it is. It's great.
There's like a groundedness that he has to his movies, and the fact that he's using a Brit to be the lead in a movie that's supposed to be action packed and shot in this grimy way, I'm really looking forward to. And I think this might be the movie that. What were you gonna say?
No, I was just reading like so it's always been a Netflix movie.
Oh, it's always been
it's always been a Netflix movie. He has a deal with Netflix.
Okay, yeah, because he did that horror film.
Yeah, and it's the reason I was
with
like
Dan
smiling
Stevens?
Reading it.
That one.
Yeah, the one with Dan Stevens.
That was good.
It completed filming in October of 2021.
They've look
crazy.
They've apparently had
there's been a lot of reshoot,
a lot of reshoots
or re-edits to it. Yeah, like,
but also like I mean this is like the issue that I have. Like this is like that, but it's that Netflix thing, man. Like where like they want it to be a very specific way. They essentially outright said that they want their movies and TV shows to be able to follow without you looking at it. That makes any sense? Have you heard that?
That's so weird.
That's the weirdest thing.
I was reading that. I heard about that comment. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, I don't know if it has to do with that because like anything that a company's just giving them money to do, that was the Raid. That was the Raid 2. That was like, you know. So I'm wondering why it came down to it. It may have been a little too grimy, man. Like he goes there with his action and suspense and stuff. So
yeah,
I think Tom Hardy has the chops too to take on something like that. You know, I think about Bronson, which is a movie that if you haven't seen it, listeners, Bronson's an incredible movie that Tom Hardy did in like 2005, 2006. But yeah, Gareth Evans, Havoc, Tom Hardy. Come on. So is there a date for it? Did it say a date?
I don't see a date.
Yeah, I thought it was coming out in 2022.
It just says 20. Yeah, it just says 2025.
Yeah, but it's supposed to legitimately come out this year. I didn't know that it was a So he had started. What was crazy? He started it before he had the deal. And what may have happened is they might have been like, "Hey, you can put this under the production company that whatever he started under Netflix," which is crazy.
So he wrote the screenplay when he was with his Netflix deal.
Okay,
and then he was like attached to direct it, but he did that when he was like he had done The Apostle. That was a part of his Netflix.
Right. That's the name of the.
So that's the other stuff he had done while under it, and then they wanted to make it. But yeah, I mean, it's just this is something that, I don't know exactly when that all went down, but at some point in 2020, he got attached to direct it. But it's just. I mean that is you. I mean, I'm very excited for this too. Like, don't get me wrong, but that kind of thing is so nerve-wracking that a movie's been like held up for 4 years.
It's insane
before it eventually comes out, and hoping it does still come out this year because it should also be mentioned like it's been pushed like 3 times.
Yeah,
like it's gotten dates and lost dates but I mean I don't know why if they have like I don't know Netflix like they should just put it out. I mean,
Yeah.
at this point, you're losing. I don't know what they're trying to build it around, but I mean, Tom Hardy, Forrest Whitaker, Timothy Oliphant. I mean, this is a
guns
cast, like, yeah, a detective that fights his way through a criminal underworld to rescue a politician's son.
Yeah,
let's go.
Every screenshot of it looks dirty. Like every screenshot of him looks filthy. It looks like it's going to be really cool.
Timothy Oliphant is on Alien Earth too, so
nice.
Maybe it'll be a good year for him.
The Oliphant descent.
The Oliphant descent.
I'm looking forward to that. He got skipped though. I feel like
I love him.
He's so good, man.
He's so great. And if you've heard him like in interviews, especially if it's somebody like Conan or the Smartless guys or whatever, where he's got a real even playing field kind of rapport with them. Walton Goggins, someone like that.
Yes.
He's so funny, and he's like an old fashioned kind of leading man in some ways, but he's also, I don't know, there's a very modern kind of part of that modern non-toxic man thing that we talk about sometimes, where there's a real sense of humor about himself that seems to be mixed in with everything. So
he's that thing that people try to play in movies. You know what I mean? Like
he's got there's a it factor to him for sure.
Yeah.
He's always had like that charisma, like he's cool. I love him.
Yeah. He's a guy that could make gritting his teeth a whole character trait on Deadwood.
Dude.
His jaw being clenched was an actual thing people talked about. And what a jawline. Well, my next one is also a Netflix project, but it opens to me the broader question of just what do you think of dream projects like Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein coming this year. The idea that a guy's been wanting to make a movie for however many years can sometimes mean it's going to be something really special, but it can also mean like Megalopolis, So
someone
it's
just
an interesting
gave him a check
thing.
Finally. Yeah.
But I think he's a guy. I mean, there's several reasons why I think this movie could be really special. For one thing, the cast is pretty incredible. I'm sure you've seen, but it's Oscar Isaac, my the top of the list of my my crush list. He's so dreamy. But as Victor Frankenstein, and then Jacob Elordi as Frankenstein's monster. It's an interesting thing. In the book, Frankenstein's monster is like soulful and poetic and weirdly smart and kind of weirdly beautiful. And that's never really been quite done on film. The closest they've come in some ways was the intelligent version of the creature that Robert De Niro played in that film, Kenneth Branagh's film, but they didn't really go the full book route. And then there was a recent production that I have not heard of that actually, until I started digging into this, one of the Kinnears, Rory Kinnear, or maybe I'm wrong about it being one of the Kinnears, but there was some actor that played him in a recent version that some people are saying was a really good version. But Del Toro has just said that there are parts of the book that are magical to him that no one's ever tried to put into one of the adaptations. And so he feels that it has its own kind of space to be. And Mia Goth is in this too. And I don't know if she's going to end up playing the bride. That seems like a shoe-in for her, right?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
But maybe she plays there's a few options there. But I'm just saying, if you know the story of Frankenstein, you know that there's the stuff that people know and people talk about, and then there's the stuff that makes it kind of an epic tale that doesn't usually get included, or at least not fully realized in the way that it could be. So it's kind of like a super remarkable story. It was like for its time, it still feels somewhat modern in the way that it tries to create dread and horror, and it has influenced everybody that's picked up a pen since then, all just about to do like a genre thing. And it's like that sci-fi horror combo. And so the idea that Guillermo del Toro would be able to like make a cool version of that in an era right now where Nosferatu has just proven that there are audiences that will lap up something that's gothic. in its aspirations like that. So yeah, I feel like this could really play to Del Toro's strengths and be that really special movie that we all know he can make. He remains like the director I love the most, who I don't always love his movies, but I love them in a different way. I love that he makes them, and I love that they're so him. This feels like it could be the material that connects with his talents and his passions in a way that could be really special. I saw something really interesting though, where he said taking on a dream project is in a way that's the last thing you want to do, because when you make it, it can actually be judged. But if you don't make it, you can always dream, about what you would do with it.
Right.
And he said he's had a lifetime of dreaming of what his version of Frankenstein would be. And so it's sort of sad in a way to actually make it, even though it's something that he's always wanted to do. So yeah, what an artist. I love that guy.
That made me really sad, but happy at the same time.
Yeah, also Christoph Waltz is in it, and Lars Mikkelsen, and Ralph Ineson, and Charles Dance. So it's kind of, how could it not be?
This is going to be crazy.
At least watchable.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And that's coming 2025 on Netflix. There's no date.
Ta-dum.
I'll go for the Netflix hat trick.
Are you still watching, Ronald?
That makes me so mad when it does that.
My final pick, just to stay in the Netflix park with you guys, might be the most anticipated thing this year for me.
Oh, yes.
And this should come as no surprise to you fellas or anybody who follows this podcast, but the final season of Stranger Things.
Yes.
Season 5, sometime this year. I don't know. They're probably going to break it apart. Well, actually, I don't know. Did they say if they were going to do 2 parts? I can't remember if they announced that or not. But I think there's going to be 8 episodes. Filming has completed. It's wrapped about a month ago. I don't know. There's nothing else this year that has me more excited, more scared, not scared, but like just I fear the end of like one of my favorite shows of all time. There's pound for pound, just the characters, the setting, the nostalgia, the genre, the horror, some sci-fi. It's just I love all of the stuff that this show has to do. The score, the way it looks, the way it's shot, the actors and actresses that it's introduced to us, that we see in so many things now. And yeah, I don't know. It's definitely one of my favorite shows of all time, I think. And I've said that before on the podcast. I don't know that when the episodes come out, it's like it's priority 1 in my life. Like me and Aaron and even our friends, like I can't not. That weekend is just blocked, man. Like I just got to watch it and I got to feel it and experience it. The music, there's nothing much more I can say about Stranger Things that we haven't already done on this podcast, but I was hoping we would have a date by this point, going into the new year, or some sort of, teaser or something. But they just take forever to make these. This is a decade-long endeavor,
Mm-hmm.
These kids that we got introduced to are young adults now, or adults in life, but in the series, I'm so excited to see the final season of Stranger Things. I can't express it. It's like the number one thing for me this year.
I felt very comfortable knowing that you would have this on your list. And so I felt like I could...
You could choose something else. Yeah.
I could choose something else. No, but I definitely think that there's a weird thing. Like people sleep on Stranger Things. There's a lot of folks that people that don't like it anymore, and because it went through some changes, and maybe it had some narrative spots of them figuring out what they could do, and not quite the same thing that Lost went through, but a similar thing of like figuring out, okay, wait a minute. People love this. There's this huge mythology we want to get to, but there's also the needs of a season-by-season storyline, and we want to do a little different thing each season and add new things, but maybe people don't want that. Maybe people want what we did at first, and let's just find a way to wrap this up that feels satisfying to people, Sure. So to me, it feels like I can totally... I mean, it's similar to what we said about James Gunn. I feel like I can sort of... At this point, I trust the Duffer Brothers and the people that they've chosen to work with to write and direct the series. I trust them with the idea of we've got a finish line that we're gonna cross. I think it might be brutal. I think it might be sad. I'm ready for that. I'm like, I want a story.
So ready.
One of the things I think we all agree on, but it's definitely one of the things that I love is an ending. I love as much as it's kind of what you said about Tom Cruise moving on from Mission Impossible. That thing, we've been in this era of the undying franchise. And let's let some of these things go. And I think the idea of maybe there's something there, maybe they'll continue, maybe they'll spin off, maybe they'll prequel, they'll whatever. But as far as Stranger Things being this thing that has been for me special every time it's come out, and for me, I still think we can get my son to watch it with us, but definitely Nikki and I have that attitude of like, we're at least going to watch a couple. And I like that they've kept the semi-binge at least with that show, in the sense that I do think what that show means to me is the ability to sort of, well, let's just stay up all night and watch this thing. But I mean, maybe one day we'll look back and we'll talk about the way in which it grabbed and then kind of lost the zeitgeist in a strange way. It's not quite Game of Thrones level, but it's that similar thing of like, there was a period where people loved talking about this show, and then it seemed like a couple seasons later, was it too long between seasons? Was it not always knowing which characters to service? There was something that it lost in terms of the zeitgeist, but I don't think it's lost anything in terms of the quality. And for some of the characters, the story has continued to get more and more interesting. I don't think they've always known what to do with the ensemble, but there's not like an element of the show that I don't like. So. What about you, Ronald? Are you excited about Stranger Things? Just seeing something wrap up?
Yeah, I mean, Stranger Things. I mean, I don't talk about it quite as much, and I think some of it is just because of the time passing. Mm-hmm. But Stranger Things had an insane impact on me. We were all kind of celebrating it at the same time. This last season, I don't know why people don't talk about it more, because like we got like a horror sort of new villain that exists now, like that was done in a way that's like feels like an homage to a bunch of people, but specifically just like that it was just birthed out of this tale that I never thought that somebody like this would emerge. Is really cool, man. Like, some of the moments in the latest season, like, I think about all the time. Like, not just like, like weekly almost, especially with like the combination of the beautiful visuals, the soundtrack, the actors. And again, like you said, watching them grow up is just, I've never experienced anything like this. I mean, I guess the only thing that we can really say that has really happened like this is maybe like Star Wars, where we saw, people return after a really long time and celebrating them there when they get a little older. This is, it feels strange. Like, we saw them as kids and now they're like getting married. It's like, I know. It's insane.
Yeah, Finn Wolfhard's got gray hair. Not really.
Cool.
Just to clarify, I did read just here. I thought this, but it is going to be 8 episodes and it's going to be 2 parts.
Okay.
And they've released the episode titles, and I know that Frank Darabont is directing at least one of the episodes.
Oh, that's crazy.
Which is exciting. And Duffer Brothers, Sean Levy, and I don't know if they announced the rest of the directors or not, but can't wait. Hopefully we get a teaser of some kind soon. Hopefully it's, middle. If I know Netflix, if it's in 2 parts, they're going to do it in 2 different quarters so they can, the numbers are looking real nice for investors.
And people like that, stagger it so that it's in 2 Emmy years too.
That's exactly right. Yep. So that's
like before something. May 31st or something, whatever it is, the cutoff, or maybe it's even later in the year now.
Oh, wow.
But I know that Better Call Saul was like that, like the last half of the last season was just, was on the other side of
that's kind of what they did for the 4th season. Like, it was like May and June or May and July or something which is crazy to think that was almost 3 years ago already. That's insane.
It's crazy. But when you think about what those shows are, and that it's 8
Sure,
like
that's
potentially
true.
like movie level episodes. It's crazy.
True.
But I do think it's a symptom of the TV show bloat. I mean, as much as I admire the show, I do think it's part of that thing of like, this isn't quite a show in the typical sense that we think of, like the way Game of Thrones or House of the Dragon or whatever is now, where it's like, well, we'll get out a season when we get one out.
Yeah.
And Severance, which is coming, in just a couple weeks or just a week or so now, is another one that's like, I'll have to refresh my memory, but I'm glad when things take the time they need to take. So,
Yeah,
for sure.
All right, Ronald, what's your final pick?
This was unconventional. Okay. I mean, let me start from the beginning. The last one came out in 2013. It bothers me.
What was it?
That we're just getting to a point where people are starting to say that video games are a source of material. It bothers me so fucking bad. It makes me sick to my stomach. I'm a person who's grown up playing video games throughout my whole entire life. This game is an economy. It is the blueprint. It is what everybody mimics. It is what everybody references. And it's coming out in 2025. Grand Theft Auto 6. And I wouldn't have mentioned it. The only reason I mention it is because it's so cinematic. There's actors that they pay that have been very secretive. There's NDAs you gotta sign. Leaked footage has come out thanks to a 16-year-old kid that went to jail. This game, the budget, and this is a conservative. This is before just putting it out and all the advertisements. $2 billion to make. $2 billion to make. I cannot wait to touch this moving movie.
Moving movie.
This moving movie, this interactive movie. There's something about what it did, this open box. I mean, because it could be anything for anybody. You could play the story, or you could drive around and create your own story,
or you can run around like an idiot and just punch people and steal their cars, like I did.
Yeah,
I suck at that. I don't like the missions, but even I know that this is a platform that, like, that people have been waiting on this new iteration. That there's a lot of story, there's a lot of whatever has innovated in gameplay. Or been innovated in gameplay since the last one came out. People are excited to see all of those mechanics applied to this classic framework that has been, again, for me, it's just a goof around zone, but for some people, this is like an epic world. And I think that it's like, no, I totally think that video games deserve that spot in the storytelling conversation. In my classes that I teach sound design and stuff, a lot of the kids, their eyes don't even open until you mention that video games are also sound design, or also reflect sound design. In fact, video games are, to your point, like, as even for someone like me that's not a video game person and I'm a storytelling addict and I'm a movie guy, I know that video games represent it's a different kind of thing. Let's not pretend it's the same thing as the art form of making a movie, but the amount of thought and writing and thought, just development that has to go into it, it's insane. So I think it definitely deserves a spot on a list like this.
It's crazier because you have to have 10 results. You have to have an actor. And then you have 10 possibilities of what could happen when you go into a room. And it's like, it's a crazy, crazy thing. It is it's not the same. It is so much weirder because you have to do 80 takes. Like sometimes you'll go and there's 15 possibilities of stuff that can happen in a room. Or, this stuff is really cool. And the fact that it didn't exist, social media was kind of a weird thing. In 2013, it existed in a way, but now with TikTok and stuff like that, and they're implementing it into the game, and people could catch you on TikTok supposedly in the game, and it just seems like an insane thing. But what it does though is it pushes the envelope in terms of acting and story and things like that. And like, let's give Last of Us just for example, the fact that beat for beat that show is pretty much taken from the video game is an indication of how stories are told in this medium. The first game that I ever played that changed my whole thinking of that was Metal Gear Solid, a 2-disc masterpiece. a stealthy espionage tale with voice actors, and like it fucked me up. Like I went from like playing Mario to being like, oh man, I could be a spy, and I'm having this radio relationship with this woman that's halfway across the world. It's insane. But yeah, Grand Theft Auto 6. Come on. I mean, they're saying that either Jesus is gonna come back first or Grand Theft Auto is gonna come out. So like, let's see what happens. Because people still are doubting it, even though the trailer came out. So.
But trailer with no date? Or is there a date?
It moved because of the leaking.
Oh.
It was summer. It seems like it was summer. Now it seems to be like October-ish. It seems to be the date. Yeah.
Well, I guess I'll be kind to everybody, and I'll close out with something that has a date attached to it.
Oh, really?
Me and my friend Diego Luna want you to come back to the wonderful world of Star Wars for hold on, here we go. For a we're both giving you the look. We want you to watch Andor season 2, which is coming on April 22nd. I think this is just the kind of like, this is like where that quality level is set right now for me with Star Wars. I've been enjoying the heck out of Skeleton Crew.
Yeah.
I think this and Skeleton Crew, as of right now, I would say they are my favorite of the 2 Star Wars shows that have come out. I'm not discounting the fun of Mandalorian. I feel like episode by episode, it might have moments. I think Grogu was a great thing to add. I think there was so much about that was smart, but I don't know that it ever felt to me like a great show from episode to episode. Sometimes I would like one and then not like the next one. Mm-hmm. And the storytelling at its best even was a kind of formula. Whereas I think that Skeleton Crew and the first season of Andor are 2 things that kind of deepen the world in a really cool way and in a way that feels really cinematic. And I'm just really excited. I'm not even one of the people that loves Rogue One. I love the boldness of Rogue One. I love that they fulfill the concept of everybody dies on this mission. I think that they have definitely put meat on the bones of the character of Andor himself since Rogue One. I think that he's got moments in Rogue One and there's some soulfulness to him, but I think that when you go back in time and see an older version of him play a younger version of the character, there's just so much more going on. I think the first season of Andor was incredibly well made and beautifully acted and well shot and well written. And, the second season sounds like they're doing a bit more of there was a talk of this show being like, it was going to be a multi-season show, and then they shortened it down to just 2. And so what would have maybe taken a couple more seasons to unfold has been kind of squished into season 2. I'm a little bit concerned about that, but it sounds like what they're doing is 2 or 3 episode arcs that then there's a 2-year jump in between or a couple-year jump in between. So I think that sounds fine. I think it sounds like we're still getting some like expanded storytelling with this character and in his world, because what worked so well about the first season of Andor was the way that we were seeing something that I don't even know that we thought we needed to see, but it was cool to see develop, which was like, what is that spirit of rebellion? When we pick up with Star Wars, there's this established group of people that are fighting the Empire, but what is it that makes people decide to start fighting an evil empire? Might even be a relevant question and an object lesson for us in the coming months and years in our world. It already felt relevant in the last season, which was, I guess, a couple years ago. So yeah, I'm really looking forward not just to enjoying this show, but it's that thing I always like of like, I'm also just very curious what they have in mind for this, because we know he lives through this to go and die in the next story, but there's a lot you can do still to take the guy we saw at the end of season 1 and turn him into the guy who at the beginning of Rogue One is like, basically willing to kill somebody just to keep him quiet. And yet he's a hero for the rebellion. I don't know. There's a lot going on that I think is interesting in this little sector of the Star Wars world. So yeah, super excited. And like I said, we know when it's coming, March 22nd or April 22nd. Which I don't know if they're doing more than 1 episode. Last time they did like 2 or 3 at once. This might be a show where they know they can milk it now that they know people liked it so much. But and there's the year, right? That's everything.
That's it. That's everything. It's a lot, man.
What an outlook.
Yeah, it's only top 3 for each of us, so there's plenty more to come. I feel like I'm very curious to see, like, looking at the, like, talk about box office stuff all the time, like what the big box office movies are going to be this year, like the reliable, like, $1 billion movies. It's like, we didn't mention it, but there's another Jurassic World movie coming out. Like, that feels like a
with
billion.
Scarlett Johansson.
Yeah, Jonathan Bailey, Mahershala.
Yeah.
Like, that feels like a $1 billion movie, possibly. Like, that franchise is kind of always good for a bill.
Well, they brought back David Koepp to write the screenplay, which to me feels. I'm always happy when the person who seemed to nail the concept the first time around comes back. I'm always optimistic that might mean there's some magic, because it's not like they've brought him back every time or anything.
Yeah, I mean, and the Rogue One piece, like, the tie there is Gareth Edwards is getting a shot with that. He's directing that.
Yeah,
but I don't know. There's Wicked for Good comes out next fall or winter. So that'll, we'll see how well that does. But yeah, I mean, like, curious to see what movies kind of overperform box office. Maybe some of the ones we mentioned, but
I want some surprises.
Yeah,
some surprises.
No doubt there will be. So we'll have to see what that ends up happening. Anything else you guys want to throw out there before we wrap up?
No, I think that's a good list.
As a reminder, if you didn't notice, we skipped our required viewing. We kind of stuck to the list episode today. So the next episode of the podcast, we'll get back to the required viewing that I picked a few weeks ago, which is Asphalt City. And we'll talk about some other stuff on that next episode too, I'm sure.
We considered it optional viewing.
Yeah. And if you didn't see it, that's your asphalt.
That's your asphalt. Yeah, we'll talk about that next week and whatever else we've seen in between now and then. Movieshmovie.com is the website. YouTube.com/Movieshmovie podcast. You can go to either of those websites, listen, subscribe, watch, whatever you prefer to do. We'd appreciate any engagement, any kind of support. We really do appreciate it. And we'll be back next week with a new episode. As always, you've made our day. Thanks.
Bye.